Jamie first, and I'm sure there might be one or two others. So, Jamie.
Thank you, Liam. Thanks for the update, Chris. A week or two ago, trained down to London, and I got there from Newcastle in 2.5 hours. That's a good 25 minutes faster than apparently the fastest time. Now, it happened because at the time I was going, it was a quiet time. It was an early morning one. That shows the issue in the IRP when it's notable the IRP is full of lots of coulds and possibilities and being explored. The Northeast does not need to be explored. This is not deepest, darkest Peru where Paddington Bear is going to emerge from the jungle. We know what's needed. We had this infrastructure in the 1840s. Now, the problem is, and the IRP acknowledges this, it's subject to stopping patterns. If all the trains run at the same speed and stop at the same stations, you can get loads of trains up there. So this idea that we'll have a look at this, we'll have a look at that, we might get 7 trains an hour through. Previous studies have said that only works. We're going to be trapped in these same discussions of, well, you can't run that train from Liverpool to Edinburgh because if you stop at the places where people actually want to get on and use the service, you're going to slow down the big trains coming from London to Edinburgh. And these are the problems. East-west connectivity is the same as north-south connectivity for us. They all run on the same infrastructure. So one of the problems in the IRP is that it didn't take into account the fact that the metro is part of the rail system. Just because it's not heavy rail. You know, Liam, it's very good that the Liverpool City region is making these strides and running services on Boxing Day. Of course, the Tyne and Wear Metro has been running services on Boxing Day as far back as I can remember, you know, because it's a local devolved service. We've had the ability to do that. If we start to look at things like the Tyne and Wear Metro and other services as part of the same system, then we'll start to see that the business case for things like reopening the Leamside line change radically, because the travelling public don't really care what colour the train is when they get on it. They just want to know, can they go from A to B and, frankly, get the same ticket all the way through. And while we're on the subject of infrastructure, stations, of course, are key infrastructure, and stations only work if you have staff there to operate them. And it's notable that the LNER proposal, LNER run the stations, are going to reduce 23 hours a week of station staffing in Newcastle, a major national railway station, 43.75 hours a week in Berwick. People rely on stations being staffed, particularly people who want to change their tickets. I'm sure everyone here has had to do that. You know, the advance ticket, you've got to go and you get it changed if you want to change it. You can only do that if you're there. And it's so complicated sometimes knowing which train you can use at which time that you need expert advice. And there's a lot of people aren't on the internet. And then there's the issue of security at stations, particularly late at night. People will feel safer. We'll get more people on the trains. So that's important. So this approach for the phrase used is rail map, something akin to the task force in Manchester to sort out the East Coast Main Line, because this has been a mess for a long, long time. Dan's absolutely right, and everybody else. This is the result of decades of persistent underinvestment. And the problem always is, someone says, oh, well, which little silo shall we put it in? It doesn't belong in a silo. It's a system-wide problem. We've got to deal with it as such. So I'm absolutely behind this, totally support what Heather said. And I'm speaking to Martin Gannon, and I know he totally supports this. So let's do this. Let's get political representation on it, working with all the partners, and actually get this problem solved and recognise that it's an integrated system.
Excellent, thanks, Jamie. I kind of wholeheartedly support everything that you've said there. I particularly love your badge, by the way. You've making a really sort of strong point about the fact that the north of England does not have enough staffed stations anyway, and we certainly should be pushing back very, very strongly about anything that reduces staffing hours at stations or takes staff off stations completely, because we know how vital that is.